under this plan in these counties only. Starting this coming Monday, May 11th, retail stores may open to in-store customers. Also, in these same counties only, beginning Monday, May 18th, restaurants may open for outdoor dining and for limited dine-in service. Also with strict health and safety precautions that we are releasing today.
A big change to the governor's reopening plan has many Maine retailers and restaurants breathing a sigh of relief. The governor decided businesses can largely reopen in 12 of our 16 counties. Restaurant owners there can reopen, but they'll need to follow a lot of new requirements that will reduce their capacity to significantly, it will reduce their capacity significantly, like space between tables, the number of people allowed inside, and other requirements for staff. 4 counties will have to wait until June 1st, Cumberland, York, Kennebec, and Androscoggin. Those are the counties where the CDC says community transmission of the virus has been happening. Businesses there can keep doing curbside or takeout, but the other restrictions remain. The governor says aside from going to these places, Mainers are expected to still wear masks and to continue to stay at home. That order remains in place. The governor's plan may reduce some complaints people have about reopening, but not all. Here's News Center Maine's Jackie Mundry.
A group of Mainers files a lawsuit against Governor Janet Mills over her COVID-19 executive order. Its members not happy with her original or revised plan to reopen Maine.
Nobody wants to sue their governor or sue their state, particularly a state that we love. All we'd like is for the governor to come to the table and work with industry leaders.
Richardson tells News Center Maine the lawsuit will stand, even after the governor's rural reopening plan announcement. It eases restrictions in Aroostook, Franklin, Hancock, Kennebec, Knox, Lincoln, Oxford, Piscataquis, Sagadahoc, Somerset, and Washington counties. Richardson is a spokesperson for the suing group. He says the mandatory 14-day quarantine for people coming to Maine is still a concern, especially as tourism season approaches.
It also has created such an economic disadvantage for the hotel industry that many of them won't survive.
In Hancock County, now able to open some things starting on Monday. Ellsworth city leaders wrote a letter to Governor Mills earlier this week asking for permission to reopen their city. City Council Chair Dale Hamilton says the governor's Friday announcement is progress.
And the other part is the tourism. So I'll be really interested to see what develops around the 14-day quarantine, which is equally probably one of the issues that really does need to be resolved.
Hamilton says he will be speaking with the Mills administration about some of the logistics and what this means for Ellsworth. As far as the lawsuit from the business group, Governor Mills has not yet responded to it. Jackie Mundry, News Center Maine.
Meanwhile, a Waterville business announces it's closing for good. The Play Factory in Waterville posted the news on social media. The business closed in mid-March at the beginning of the pandemic in Maine and hasn't been making money since. The owner says they applied for a small business loan, but they didn't get an answer on their application. They say it could have been a different story if they would have been allowed to open earlier.
I kind of wish that there was just not a one-size-fits-all approach, just because central Maine and northern Maine is very different than southern Maine.
Now, the Play Factory is just one of dozens of businesses that say they've had to close due to the effects of the shutdown. The owners of Uncle Andy's Diner in South Portland announced last night they would be shutting down after 66 years in business. Let's take a look at the coronavirus case numbers here in Maine. As of yesterday, there were 1,264 confirmed cases of COVID-19. That's an increase of 44 since Thursday. There are 364 active cases in the state right now, and 44 of them are in the hospital. The good news, 836 people have recovered from the virus, but one more person has been reported to have died with the virus. The Lewiston Wellness Shelter is now welcoming new guests. The shelter closed earlier this week after a former guest was confirmed positive for COVID-19. The shelter says they've since contained any potential spread of the virus and deemed it safe to welcome in new guests once again. A shelter spokesperson says if they hadn't been testing when they did, the virus could have spread to a lot more people.
that gentleman that tested positive was asymptomatic. So if we hadn't screened him, he would still be out in the community or in the shelter and in close contact with a lot of people.
Shelter guests continue to have their temperature taken twice a day and are provided masks to wear inside the building.